Hello and welcome to the Habit Coach podcast. I am Ashdin Doctor, your habit coach, and this is part 2 of our conversation with Harshil and Aayush. And we are talking about understanding the mind, understanding focus, understanding meditation, and understanding how you can level up. So make sure you listen to part 1 and then come and listen to part 2 so you know what we're going to be talking about. So we were talking about this just before, and we were talking about kindness. What is this kindness funda that you were saying? You said that there's a way in which you can actually cultivate it.
So, let's say this is my understanding. I'm breaking it down in my language.
Of course.
Please do your research. There are 2 ways to get more from life. One is discipline, which includes meditation, taking care of body, and second is serving. Serving
So
unconditionally.
discipline and serving.
Yeah. This is how I've broken down inside me. When you serve, somewhere in your brain, you are breaking the boundary between me and you. You are challenging I-ness and minus somewhere. Every service has that. And the more you serve unconditionally, let's break down the definition of service because it's important. Service means acknowledging that you are instrument of flow of some energy rather than you are giving someone something. No. Give is my God, but whatever I'm giving, it's not me. It's through me. It's very important to understand.
It is not mine, it is through me.
Through me. I'm Krishna's flute. And let's just say some more, not Krishna's, divine's flute. Okay, and someone is playing through me. So this is the definition of service which I made peace with. So every action you do with that intent, you are channel to something bigger than you. You unlock more potential, more quality life, more potentials in you, and that's the 2 way to get more from life. I was talking, like we were discussing, let's do an experiment to see how this works. Let's say whatever I'm saying, it's you who is speaking, but that recorded voice is coming through me. So you will start noticing that everything I'm saying right now, if you visualize that, is more clearer, louder, and more, how to put it, you are more in the present. You do this activity in like various part of your life, and you will notice the more you break down this barrier, the difference between you and me, the more present you are. I do one more activity which really helps. Let's say I go to a crowd and I feel out of place. I feel extremely out of place. So this is what I do. Doctor Strange. Are you a fan of Doctor Strange? Okay, so this is what I do. I see everyone and I visualize for a moment, and it really helps. I visualize everyone as Aayush, only from a different universe. That scene where all the Doctor Strange from all the universe is here. And my breathing pattern, my calmness, I need to feel it, not just think it, feel it, like incantation level feeling, like feel it in the bones. And suddenly the color will start appearing more darker or more alive. People, let's say we are talking, I will start feeling ki I'm you from, let's say, Earth in some different galaxy. Now more connection, I can talk my heart out because I'm talking to myself only. So there's these small hacks which I've been practicing to bring that knowledge of difference in boundaries and egos into action. And it really works. It works. I mean,
yeah, I think it's such an interesting practice because it really encourages active listening. So it's also going back to certain universal truths. We're all in some way in love with our own voices. So the moment I start looking at you, and whenever you're speaking, I hear the voice that is coming out from you as my voice. That is a great way to be able to really absorb what you're saying with much more focus. Coming back to your earlier point about focus, it's a great way to absorb with much more focus. It's a good hack. But what it's starting to do is that the moment you're on that journey, it increases the interconnectedness between people, because the more carefully I listen to you, the more invested you are in serving me with that with what you're saying again. And then the more I listen more carefully and I see myself in you, I start to kind of reduce the biases that I have may have about you. I start to reduce the preconceived notions that I have about you. And then I start becoming, over the long run, because of the increased interconnectedness, I can serve you better. And then if all of us are serving each other better, then that, really is the resonance at the larger level, which is then what's the fun of it, to be able to resonate together at this large frequency. So I think that's really, it's a great tool, and I learned it from him. So this is one of the many things I learned from him, in this journey.
Amazing.
And this is what I was trying to say at the start, about the is about the detail orientation. Even with life, he will codify it into a tool. So that is the fun part of dealing and building things together.
And then put the heart away.
And then put the
and then put the mind away. Put the heart there.
in.
Put the heart.
Yeah.
That's the secret. What Saloni Suri said, you're not high in life. It's a cliche. Everyone says it. But she said it from the heart. He listened it from the heart. And the cliche got unlocked. It integrated in his presence.
Yeah.
It's very important. That unlocking of cliche knowledge is very important.
That's a very good way to put it, yeah, actually.
So it was something very interesting that happened. So I'd gone to Leh Ladakh for a meditation. I was climbing a high altitude mountain. Finished the mountain, come down. We're in the bus on the way back. And in the bus, it passes through these steep valleys. I am scared, looking out at the potential of this bus toppling over. I'm meditating. And in my meditation, I get one, instinct, gut feel, message, whatever, saying that from now onwards, don't charge for anything that you do. Just give everything away for free. You're doing God's work. Just continue.
Wow.
Right. Now, that is a freaky ass thing to happen.
Yeah.
Especially to a business person.
Yeah.
Right. So, matlab, dhanda. Like, what will I go and do back? And I come back and I'm like, so after my meditation, my friends who are sitting around me say that, Ashdin, you look like you've seen a ghost. What happened? So I was like, guys, I'm just like still processing this. Just let me figure it out. And it's one of those things. It was a definite statement without a potential option for debate. Okay, fine. Come back to Bombay. Call up my accountant, say, matlab, what to do about this? He freaks out. Call up my finance consultant who works in my business. What to do about this? He freaks out. I was like, okay, chalo, this has happened. Let's go for it. Call up all my clients 1 week later. I gave myself 1 week to process. Call up all my clients 1 week later and say, from now onwards, don't charge for whatever it is. How much ever you want to use me, but no more charging. And from all the clients, none of them used it. Right? They all stopped working with me. It was insane. So suddenly, from being busy through the day, I had now complete empty time. In that empty time, finished writing 3 books. In that empty time, started working at the NGO. In that time, all this other stuff that was what you were talking about, kindness-oriented, giving-oriented, service-oriented, started. Which earlier on didn't exist, because by that point of time, for the coming year, I had already made $1 million plan. How will this business scale to this much and all of that, which completely got trashed. And it's so interesting, the journey you can be on when you, put the logic aside, when you start listening to yourself, or strange things like this happen to you. So, while you were talking about the whole kindness thing, this reminded me of this story. Thought I'd share it.
It's a great story. And then I'm curious to understand what happened. So, that 1 week later, but I'll let you finish and then we can go back into that story.
I had like a thought. It's very important to understand this give mentality very carefully. You need to give it to others and give it to self. There should not be hypocrisy in giving.
What does that mean?
What I mean by that, if you are really equal, right, the variable you will be optimizing is X amount of energy to someone and X amount of energy to self. You are a third person. Okay, see it this way. Let's say I'm Aayush. There's a different identity, let's say, a evolved identity. And there are like 6 people in the room. 6 people. This evolved identity needs to give 6 people equally, not just 5, excluding me. So it's my responsibility to treat myself the way I treat others, also treat others the way I treat myself. It goes both ways.
So I have a perspective on this.
Yeah.
It's very interesting that energy doesn't go and come from nowhere.
Yeah.
Right? So when you give something for free, you're not necessarily getting back the same thing in the way that you would have normally thought about as payment energy. It comes from strange places.
Yep, it comes.
And that's the point of it all, right? So by default, it's coming back to you, right? Even though you're giving, by default, it comes back to you. The strangest things start happening when you are in the process of just giving.
This I'm saying because I had a friend who I discussed this with. And there are people, since we are in a platform, there are people who have this cute habit of being nice all the time. It's not natural. It's just a people-pleasing mindset. That's why I added this small disclaimer ki treat everyone equally, yourself and them. Because I've seen people who just how to put it, not fair to themselves.
That's the thing, right? It is people-pleasing. So one is giving. The second is treating yourself the way you would treat others.
Yeah.
That is the key difference. So are you treating yourself the way that you would treat others? Are you talking to yourself with the same compassion that you would talk with somebody else?
Yep.
Circles, in your scheme of the different shapes, circles have this problem.
Yeah.
Right?
We didn't actually finish all the shapes.
We didn't finish all the shapes. But like a circle will actually empathize, but not necessarily empathize with themselves. Right? So it makes a big difference there.
Yeah.
You were saying something. You were saying...
No, I was curious to know more about this story. So, what happened inside of that meditation that you felt, that it was so... That it was not a debatable discussion? And do you feel also that like... there might be people listening to this who've just started their journey and they're like, hey, I got a thought. And then I follow through with that. But how many years in were you to working on yourself to create that firm environment to say that, look, I will listen to this? What are some of those signs for you to say that, yes, I have to listen to myself for this?
Lovely. So this is not the first time it's happened multiple times. In fact, the whole habit coaching idea came from a meditation. Another high altitude trek. Again, this Leh Ladakh is a place where, this is scary. I'm not going there again. All these life-changing things happen in meditations there. So I was in Leh Ladakh. We just finished climbing a mountain called Stokangri. This was 2015, 14, 15, 16, something like that. 17, God knows. And again, on the way back to Pangong Lake, we're driving on this road, scary road. I'm freaking out. I'm meditating. I told my friend, I'm meditating. I'll see you at the other end. In that meditation, what is habit coaching? What is the brand name going to be? What are the 6 different fundamentals that we're going to focus on? Who is our first client going to be? What are the different things that you're going to charge for? Download. It was not... So the interesting thing about when you are in this state is that there is no question of debate. It's not, is it a good idea or a bad idea? Is it not that I should be doing this instead of this? It is not that should I be thinking about, supplements instead of nutrition. It's just a very clear kind of thing. So that's when, came back, started habit coaching. So that was 3-4 years before this. Got lots of clients, and then this happened when I was thinking of scaling the business beyond just, helping people. How do I make more money from this? Because I was saying that what is my success parameter at that point of time. So then money had become the success parameter, which is what I think something wanted me to change it or challenge it. So the freaky thing is that even for the last 2-3 years that we've been doing no charging, money has been coming in from the strangest places. So it's not that the company is in a loss or anything like that, which is what we expected it to be. But money comes from strange places. Opportunities come from strange places. That would never have popped up if this hadn't happened. Right? So it is a very interesting...
Yeah, it's very interesting.
The way that it happens. And to put what you said is that how should a person doing this say that, I'm not going to quit my job because suddenly this happened in one meditation. The idea is that if there is doubt, it wasn't something that came from the meditation. If there is doubt, right, you can freak out with it. You can feel scary, but the doubt is not, that doesn't exist. You feel completely taken care of in that process.
That's so important, right? That feeling of doubt, or like, is there a level of fertility that you need to have to be able to receive that? Or is it just, it could happen to you the first time you're doing a meditation, or, how do you
The fertility
view that?
is surrender. So how deep can you get into the point of surrender? I'll give you another example. 2 weeks ago to 3 weeks ago, whenever Jay Shetty was done, so I had the option to interview him. So everyone at IBM said that Ash, Jay Shetty is coming down. Why don't you reach out to his team and ask them? So I said, cool. So because we share the same publisher, HarperCollins, I messaged HarperCollins saying that, listen, if you want him to come on the podcast and talk about his book, please, happy to. So they said that no, it's being handled by the International. We have nothing to do with it. One day before his launch in Bombay, I get a message at 6 o'clock in the morning. So I'm working on a podcast or something, so I'm awake. Message pops up saying that tomorrow, would you mind interviewing Jay Shetty at the Taj for this particular event? I was like, mind? Of course. But the point is that when they said no, I said, no problem, surrender to this process, right? Instantly said that, okay, fine, now to interview Jay Shetty. So quickly, first buy his book, finish reading the entire book in that one day, and then go and interview him, right? So it is what is the goal that you want? Which is the direction that you're heading? What are the activities that you will do for that goal? And then finally surrender. So it's exactly like the Gita, right? Like surrender the outcome.
Detached, beautiful work.
Correct. Detach from the outcome. But you know the goal and you know the work that you have to do. It is not just, I've just detached from everything and I'm going to through life. It is not that. It is hardcore action. And then you detach.
Yeah.
To your question, Joe Rogan puts it very nicely. Why he says that we all are antennas, and the maintenance of antenna is good lifestyle, good thoughts, good sangat, all that thing, all the cliche knowledge. The maintenance of antenna is all the cliche knowledge, and there are some aliens. He uses aliens. I would say divine knowledge, or I would say randomness. They throw ideas. When he was in Himalaya, at that point of time, his antenna, I'm pretty sure you would have done some good maintenance of your antenna. Maintenance of your antenna, and that place is charged. So someone would have downloaded that entire information in him. And that's why it was, there's no doubt, because it was well thought by someone. It's how he puts it. And regarding your point about surrender, it's a very interesting topic, which I'm actually struggling with understanding this surrendering a bit. What the question is, divine will. Is there free will or there's no free will, which is a very interesting topic, which we can touch upon if that's the scope of the podcast. But there's this visualization which Mohanji, one of our teacher in Bhagavad Gita class, he's part of Govardhan Eco Village. He made me do that to understand surrender. It's a great visualization. If we want to do, we can do. It's a great visualization. Okay, very great. Close your eyes. Okay,
this is a caveat. If you are driving, please do not close your eyes. Right? If you're in a situation that's dangerous and you want to do this along with us, please pause, get into a place, park on the side of the road, and then do this.
Yeah.
This is true service to the listeners.
You have to know. Yeah. Close your eyes.
I'll try. Okay, let's start with driving only. Imagine you're driving the car, right? And there's a right turn. And you want to take a right turn, and you turn the car turns right. Then there's a left turn. You take the left turn and the car turns left. Then again you take a right turn, the car turns right. Again you take a left turn, the car turns right. Then you take a right turn, the car turns left. Then you take a right turn, the car turns right. Now let's restart this thing. It was very uncomfortable, I know, when the turns were wrong. Now you are on the passenger seat. You're not on the driving seat. The car is autopilot mode. The car takes a right turn. The car takes a left turn. The car takes a right turn. The car takes a left turn. The car takes a left turn. The car takes the right turn. Now just come back. Simple. So what happened? It's okay. This is what it is. That uncomfort feeling, that resistance to give up, that I don't have a better word, but that aversion to not believe that the car was driving itself is what we need to contemplate on, where is a lot of wealth of knowledge that comes from. Effectively, what was happening, the car was going in the way it had to. At certain points, your will and the car will was in the same sync, and you thought you were doing it. at certain point it was not in sync, and you give it to say that God's will. Effectively, everything is someone's. I think it's a God will, because I understand it from a probabilistic point of view. I've broken down, and it's a very complex probability maths that makes it very. Things are not we are not in charge. We are always in the passenger seat. Now we have two options: either to enjoy it or to make fuss of it. I have this, like we discussed in the Bhagavad Gita class, I put this tweet that I have 33% equity in whatever I do, but with 100% responsibility. Please understand, responsibility and ownership are two different things. Since you are a channel, whatever happens, good or bad, you have certain equity. But responsibility, you need to be responsible, full responsible to conduct this thought process अच्छे से. So that resistance that comes.
It's an interesting segue to Aristotle, right? Because Aristotle says the key to happiness is to believe that you have 100% free will. So, this 100% responsibility that Aayush talks about is actually the 100% belief that you have free will. So you may, to take the example of the car is a different example, but in all our actions, even though we may not have 100% ownership over the outcome, it's still our responsibility to behave every single moment, and therefore act at every single moment from our highest self to be able to deliver that every action that I'm doing will have the ability to shift an outcome, and therefore I do that every action from my best possible self. What you spoke about earlier also about giving the work with as much strength as you can. So I think, that's where the two combine. There's this, and I think the summary, the statement that he puts, I really love it, which is that I have 33% equity in whatever I do with 100% responsibility. I think that's a very good way to put it, within the free will debate also.
Correct. It's so nice because, and what you said about ownership, right? Ownership is what we think about it. It's like, I want to own everything. But that's again from an ego point of view when you're coming from. When you're doing the surrender part, you're realizing that there's an ego and then there's a surrendering of that ego.
Yeah.
And there's a surrendering of whatever it is that you've done to the ways of the world.
Yeah.
Like,
and it's really tough. It's really tough.
It's very hard.
Yeah.
But it's hard only when you stay in that intellectual mind. Right? It's very hard when you're constantly caught up in that mind saying, is this right? Is this wrong? Is it right? Is it wrong? Is it right? Is it wrong? But when you flow through life, there is a certain aspect to that flow. And there are certain times when the flow is fast, certain times when the flow is slow. Right? If you're agitated when the flow is slow, guess who's agitated? You. Right? Who's frustrated? You. So understanding this, knowing when to flow, knowing when to not, is the key aspect of all of this. Yeah, I think it's
coming to this also, the point of agitation, or Aayush and me were discussing the other day. He put a very good point. He said, if anyway the purpose of life is to flow, then why is it that as human beings we don't have a alarm bell that, hey, you're not flowing? Why are we built like that? So it's a good exasperated question. Another friend of ours, Om, he put it very nicely. He said that, actually you have the alarm bells. They're inbuilt in you. So every time you get angry, it is an alarm bell for you to show you that you're not in flow. Every time you get jealous, it's an alarm bell for you to show you that you're not in flow. Every time you get anxious, it's an alarm bell to show you that you're not in flow. And then, this whole cultivation of thoughts, the good thoughts, as well as your practice around your meditation. Your meditation practice is effectively, what is it doing to you? Whether if I had to borrow from the mindfulness school, your mind is gone somewhere and you're kind of pulling it back to the center. And then you're going again and you're pulling it back to the center. So that moment when you're anxious, and if you've prepared your mind to say that, look, you're anxious, I will let you be, I will observe it for what it is, but now I'm going to bring you back to the center, to this place of flow. That's really where the magic starts to happen for us to be able to be within our moment, to be within that area of focus. So I know we've gone through many, many layers, to the point where you started around focus, but I think ultimately a lot of it dials back down to this stuff.
Absolutely. I like what you said, when you think about anxiety, the issue with anxiety is only the struggle of not wanting to be anxious. Right? When you think about it, the anxiety is anxiety. Okay, fine, you can have anxiety. But it is the struggle of saying, why do I have this anxiety? I didn't wish I had this anxiety. Look at that person, he doesn't have anxiety. That is where your brain goes for a complete toss. Right? if you're in that anxious moment, knowing that you're in the anxious moment, enjoying the anxious moment. Can you enjoy that anxious moment? Right? There are times when you're like, what's going to happen?
And a great way to enjoy that anxious moment is to look at that anxious moment as a signal. Again, like that smile in the meditation.
What's
that,
it telling me?
Yeah, what's it telling me? And that, hey, it's actually first and foremost, I'm grateful that anxious moment has happened because it's telling me that I'm not in my flow.
Correct.
So that itself is a trigger, positive reorientation to the brain saying, look, cool, you caught that. Tune pakad liya.
Full marks.
Full marks. And then obviously when you're within an anxious moment, you got to like let that moment flow, like you said. But I think the other, this hacking of the mind with respect to the full mark orientation of it when you're in a so-called negative emotion is a very interesting way to look at it.
Yeah, when you feel jealousy, why am I feeling jealous? What is it that person has that I want? Right? What is it that I feel there's a lack in me for? Okay, this is interesting. Now can I be appreciative of it? Right? And it's so interesting to go through this thought process. Your co-founder, Tanveer, he started his podcast, right? Supremely well, right off the bat. So the first thought I had was, damn, why is he doing so well? Right? Instant jealousy happened. And I then went back and I said, that's interesting. I'm normally not jealous. Why is it suddenly feeling jealous? And I realized, and I said, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to message a close friend of his. So Sarvesh is a friend of his. So I messaged Sarvesh and said, Sarvesh, please tell him he's doing such a fantastic job. Love what he's doing. Amazing. Jealousy disappeared because now I appreciated what it was that he was doing, not I wish I had what he had. And that change makes a big difference in the mind. Right? So that's interesting.
We were discussing before the podcast why it's important to empathize all these vices. Let's say jealousy. I think it's all our animal brain which makes us do that. Let's always, to explain this, I say let's go in the forest. We are not that evolved to live in this society. We are still evolving to live. We are a forest people down the line. Still, it will take us 200 years to live in this information bubble, evolution. So when I was in forest, everyone was in forest. Everything was a limited resource. Everything meant survival or death. For example, let's say this podcast, which example you took, in the forest, how it will play is, it's, let's say there's a tribe thing, and there are like 2 podcasters there. If one has more follower and the another doesn't have, there's a chances of breakout in long run. The brain will feel in the tribe. At that time, it will appear very real in the forest because there's a limited resource. So it will feel that I'll be out of the tribe. Once you're out of the tribe in forest, you're not going to live. You're dead. Similarly, let's say there's this jealousy in relationship, a possessiveness in relationship. It's a very interesting origin. In jungle, during that time, there was no DNA test. It's very hard to determine whose baby this baby is. And each baby is an energy investment of 15 to 16 years. A huge commitment. So what happened was, this possessiveness from men's side came, that I will protect my women because we don't know whose kid it is, and I don't want to put a 15 years part of my life and energy to make someone else's DNA flourish. And from a woman point of view, the possessiveness was, I want resources for my baby. So I don't want the attention of my male partner to divert, because again, limited resource for the men to give. So all these things started from somewhere. If we read more about all the vices, anger, fear, all it lies down will go down to the animal brain. That's why I said before that we are, I think, 100 to 200 years away from a mental evolution point of view to live in this society.
Hence, where there is abundance.
It's too much. All the problems we will have now is a problem of abundance, not problem of lack, which Mohanji mentioned, which is a very nice way to put.
Yeah, all our health problems right now is too much food.
Yeah,
it's not too little food. Nobody's dying of famine. Right? It's an interesting thing. We're dying of overeating. We're not dying of famine.
Yeah. So, the other thing is as you're speaking about the animal mind, I want to come to the mind of ours, which we can really weave together really well. So as we've been studying this, one is the animal brain, and what we've been studying is that within the chakras also, as if you look at it, the third eye chakra that we see is actually, with respect to the structure of our brain, it lies at what we call the prefrontal cortex.
Correct.
So now I'm oversimplifying, but the prefrontal cortex is the seat of your character. It's
the newest part of the brain.
It's the newest part of the brain, and again to the point which is evolving from the animal brain to the abundant brain, if you may. And this prefrontal cortex defines for us the intuition, the sense of the ability to sense beyond. Your character effectively is built at the prefrontal cortex, and then you've got what you have as the crown chakra, and around the crown chakra is basically the spine, which is connected through the central lobe of our brain, connected to our hands, to our ears, to our mouth. Now, what we call a more integrated person and not an animalistic person is where who we really are and our actions are in harmony. So this process of meditation, again with the science, what it's showing is improving the connectivity between the prefrontal cortex and the central lobe. So who you act as who you are.
Correct.
And therefore you are less animalistic. And that's the seat of it really. That's the crux of the matter, which is to be able to find yourself, increase the connectors in your brain between who you are supposed to be and who you really are. And really grow into who you're supposed to be and who you really are. So all your actions, all of the stuff that we spoke about, which is using your work as an action to give and all of that, this is subset of, it's in harmony to all of that. So that is the, and I think that's the real inflection point with respect to human evolution. So while it may take 200 years, perhaps it can be faster or can be speeded up with stilling the mind.
Correct.
And, really allowing the mind to form into the shape that it's supposed to for this new world.
Absolutely.
This brave new world.
Yeah, Supermind.
Yes.
Amazing. Fantastic. Thank you so much for coming and having this podcast with us. And
yes, thank you.
It's been a very interesting, stimulating journey.
Yeah.
How can people find out more about what you're doing? Tell us where they can connect with you, continue this conversation, check out your app, etc.
Thank you. Thank you for allowing us this opportunity to share that. We are on www.levelsupermind.com. We are on the Apple Store and on the Google Play Store. You just put Level Supermind, you'll find us. We are the one with that 4.7, 4.8 rating. So people are liking us. If you like us, if you have feedback, I can tell you one thing about our team is that we call them sharks. And they are, the moment you leave a review, if it's a negative review, we will call you up, we will solve your problem, and we will then, after solving a problem, request you to move it up.
Nice.
No, move up the rating. So, that's us, Level Supermind, and then we are, all of that. On that website, you can find us.
Amazing.
At all the other places.
Your Instagram handles?
Mine is Aayush Misfit, Aayush Misfiit. Or you can
LinkedIn. That's a nice IIT.
I do. It defined me. I don't like to put IIT everywhere, but there's something that defined me, so I want it in my identity. You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm more accessible.
Okay. On LinkedIn. Lovely.
Yeah.
What's your surname? Aayush?
Aayush Anand. AayushAnand.
Lovely.
Yeah.
And
Anand. Always Ati Anand.
Ati Anand. And your Instagram?
Mine is Harshil Karia on Instagram.
Lovely. Awesome. Thank you guys for joining.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.